Hey, I'm Anthony Melm. I'm a caster for the SMITE 2 Founder Series, and here's some settings I think you should try out if it's your first time opening SMITE 2, or if you're a SMITE 1 player who's looking to try something different. So let's get into my settings from the get-go. In video, this is going to go person by person. So go into your settings. I recommend going into Arena mode with bots and trying them around. Arena seemed to use more frames for me than Conquest, so it might even be more helpful. I'm on 1440p with a 5700X and a 3070 graphics card. I ran everything on low earlier when I was streaming, but I was getting pretty good frames on medium, high, and even maximum. Honestly, it wasn't too bad at all. So mess around and find the best ones for you. If you need some extra frames, I recommend trying to turn down shadows, foliage, reflections, quality of those reflections, and that kind of thing first. It'll help a lot. Motion blur, turn that off. VSync, unless you're playing on a 60 Hz monitor, turn that off. I play with reduced rendering buffer off. I keep my own ability graphics at 10, allies I keep at 40%, and enemies I keep at 100, and I have ragdolls off. For audio, again, this is going to be your personal preference and depending on your setup, but push-to-talk is on by default, so if you want to mess with your microphone volume, this is where you're going to do it. On to gameplay, I play with quick cast. Normal cast, instant cast are also options. Normal cast is the, by default way in SMITE 1, where you click the button, then you have to press it again to try to get stuff to fire. It hovers the ability until you press it. Quick cast is my personal go-to, where if you hold the button, you can view the ability before you use it, but otherwise pressing the ability will use it. And if you go to instant cast, and they all have descriptions as well, instant cast is just that. It is instantaneous. Double tap to fire, I have that off. I've yet to really play around with it, but it doesn't sound like it would be something for me. Restrict camera pitch, I have off. Sensitivity settings, it's going to be all you. If you aren't familiar with what NVIDIA Reflex is, basically it helps lower latency. So consider giving that a try if you haven't already. And I also would recommend looking deeper into it. It's a pretty fascinating thing to learn more about. UI, I have my item store centered with descriptive for both the detail levels. This is another thing where I really recommend going through and trying it yourself. I think centered and descriptive is a good way to start out SMITE 2 to really learn items. I also think centered is nice and clean on your screen. The default is the left align, if I'm not mistaken, and if you go to split, if you're a console player, you should be using split. It is so much easier to use on controller. For nameplate name display, I keep god names on. I keep myself nameplate on because I like seeing my health bar in the middle of the screen, and movement in menus I keep on allow. Going over to usability, color correction affects the entirety of your screen, not just the icons, so make sure you try the ones you like the most. They're pretty stark differences. Auto skill, I keep off. If you are a newer player, it can be tempting to leave this on. I would suggest trying with it off. Go in game and hold the control key. You'll see a pop-up of all of your abilities, and you can very easily see when you level up an ability what gets upgraded in it. It's a great way to learn. Help tips I keep on, once again, just being a bit newer. With SMITE 2 coming out, it's nice to have on so I can know everything to make sure I say it out loud on casts and whatnot, but it's a good way to kind of get into the game. Distance line indicator. I use ruler. For ground target, I use arrow. Enable bracket highlighting. What does that do, Malm, you might ask me? It puts brackets around the enemies. Shocking, I know. I like to keep it on, and when you have it combined with a reticle shape of your choosing, that reticle shape will be the bracket, which I think is pretty cool. I use the sci-fi, which is sort of like a shorter triangle one, and I think it's a way less invasive than SMITE 1 when I had just normal bracketing on, so I would definitely try that. And I have Show Targeter 3D Elements on. Finally, we have controls. That's going to be your key bindings. This is going to be all you. I use QERF for my abilities 1 through 4, and then I level them up with F1 through 4. My active items I keep on 1, 2, 3, my consumables on C and Z, and my relic I have on Shift. That's how I like to do it. My weirdest one is I have my item store on my mouse button. But there you go. That is my settings for SMITE 2. Try them out yourself. Let me know if they're good for you. Make sure you try your own to give them your own spin and see what works best for you. And I'll see you next time. Until then, be safe.